What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews. Today we've got an awesome guest on, and his name is Sami Rusani. Now, Sam was a fantastic guest that gave a lot of technical insight. Now, his background is he is a technological specialist. He's a strategist in digital strategy. He's an angel investor. He's a board member and advisor to multiple companies. He's also a master of public relations and marketing. So this guy provided so much incredible insight. He also is 6'9". So he was born in Sweden. He toured around Europe with a whole bunch of different bands, and we talk about that a little bit. And these different bands he worked as a manager and a promoter for. And throughout all the different things he learned, he was able to bring that skill set to America, which started his PR business, which expanded into lots of different businesses where he consults with strategy and invests in the different technology resources. So he can touch a lot of different subjects, but we really focused on how do you master a brand. His work has been featured in Forbes, the Huffington Post, Fast Company, Inc., Business Insider, Thrive Global. He's all over the place. And some of his clients are household names. They're brands like Sony, Mercedes, Visa, Heineken. I mean, all over the place this guy has worked, and he's been involved with a lot of different types of businesses. And we really focus in on how do you make your brand stick out in this noisy world. And he uses some strategies that might seem obvious, but are not so intuitive. And I think if you guys have a pen and paper, get that out. This is a very note intensive discussion today because he gave it all. I mean, his consulting time is worth thousands of dollars, and he gave us everything you need to know. So this is a fantastic discussion today. I think I do want to bring up as well, before we jump into it, that we are starting to build up a business incubator in Oshkosh area. So if you guys are in the Oshkosh, Wisconsin area, go to theventureprojectoshkosh.com. You'll find out more details there as we start to build this up. It's going to be a co-working space, a mentorship network, and an incredible business incubator. So go to theventureprojectoshkosh.com. Also, you can go to The Venture Project on Facebook. And you can go to my website, aaronjarmstrong.com, and figure out everything from there. So we have an awesome guest. Really excited to talk to Sami. You guys are going to love the conversation, how it went today. Without further ado, folks, welcome to the show.
Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews, the only show that's going to teach you
how to be somebody.
Where in your life did you learn that you're not good enough?
Take what you're most passionate about and what you're most fearful of, and what is the plan to overcome that fear, and what is the plan to enact that passion.
Welcome to Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews. I'm your host, AJ Armstrong. You can follow me on Instagram at AaronArmstrong33. That's AaronArmstrong33. Or you can go to my website, aaronjarmstrong.com. Today we have a fantastic guest with credentials all over the place, to be quite honest. I mean, this guy has touched everything. We've got a little bit of some systems engineering background in common. We also have some marketing background in common. But today I have on the show, his name is Sami Rusani. I actually pronounced that correctly. It's we learned it's
Yes.
Macedonian, actually, is the
Yes.
background, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, Sami, hey man, thanks for coming on the show. I know you've been featured all over the place. You've been featured, or you've done work with Forbes. You've done work with a lot of different companies that are household names as far as marketing their brands, doing PR work, doing a lot of technical digital marketing work. And I think that's going to be really exciting to dig into the tactics that you are going to be offering us today.
Yes.
But first,
Yeah.
first, I just want to bring it back and just get a little brief, background on you and kind of where you came from and how that turned into where you're doing today.
Absolutely, man. I was actually born and raised in Sweden, so Swedish and Macedonian, actually Danish. My mom's Danish, but born and raised in Sweden, so it's kind of a weird mix there, and it's all war, right? You know? Oh, you were? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How'd you like it?
Yeah. I actually flew into Denmark and
oh, nice.
Did the Baltic cruise. It was beautiful. Beautiful
Oh,
area.
fantastic. I hear it's great.
Yeah. Sweden was one of my favorite countries to visit.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Yeah, I mean, if you go summertime is always the best time to go.
Right.
But yeah, it's a beautiful place. But yeah, so that's where I was born and raised. So like I was saying, it's Vikings and Macedonians. It's all like war and go-getter people. So
Does that
uh,
translate to how you run your life now? Are you like just a
exactly,
go
yeah, yeah,
freaking
yeah,
yeah?
for good and bad, right? For good and
Yeah.
bad. But yeah, born in a very small town in Sweden, 30,000 people or so there. Always thought it was too cold and too small for me. So started actually as in the music industry. Did a lot of concert booking, did a lot of tour management, and then went transitioned into actually managing artists. So artist management did for
Were
a
you a
long time.
musician yourself? Was that part of the what drew you into it?
Yeah, so I always tell people in another time in another galaxy far far away, right? That's when I was a touring musician.
What
Uh,
instrument?
so I toured both as a drummer and a guitar player.
I like it.
Yeah.
I play guitar too. I like
Oh,
to riddle
nice.
the old six string. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. So toured around, and the whole thing was I've always been more about business than just the whole tour and party life. So I
Sure.
always made sure to everywhere we went, I set up meetings with the bookers, with the venue owners, with the promoters.
Okay.
I shook hands, because I'm like, I want to come back. I want to play
Right.
again, right? So I got to know these people. So I got to know a bunch of them, and then I said, some other people contacted me like, hey, you guys have been touring now. Can you book my band? I want to tour too. Sure, why not? And all of a sudden I have a booking agency. And all of a sudden, of course, somebody asks, well, can you come with us out on tour and handle all this crap on the road, right? And sure, why not? So I started, and as you tour, you get invited to tour with, bigger and bigger bands. Not that I went out with someone like massively famous, but a bunch of Swedish and German bands, American bands, both in Europe and the US, got to travel the world and really learn how to manage everything from super eccentric people to people who didn't want to pay to just fantastic people too, right? I mean, I never had so much fun in my life, but it's very taxing. It's a
Yeah.
24/7 job. It's like taking care of a kindergarten group.
So all the movies we know where they talk about just these wild, is that true? Like, for the most, like you run into just some people that are just really difficult to manage
Oh
sometimes.
my God, absolutely. I mean, someday I might even write a book on the adventures, right? I mean, it's just I always tell people it's like, in the 3 or 4 years I was out, I got to see everything in sex, drugs, and rock and roll that you can ever imagine and don't want to imagine, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but some of the bands are like the best guys. They're up at 6 a.m., no problem. Some guys are just beyond debauchery. But the good thing as a tour manager for me, at least, because I wanted to keep my job, was that I never participated in the craziness. Right? I
Yeah.
didn't do drugs. I didn't mess with groupies. I didn't do all this crazy stuff because my job as a tour manager is, of course, to keep track of all the kids, so to speak. So you get to peek into a bubble, but you never like participate really in it. And I also didn't. That lifestyle wasn't anything for me really. Always been looking to build, build, build. I'm the kind of guy who like, oh, I made money. I'm not buying a Ferrari. I'm investing in the next company.
Did something teach you to think that way, or did you just always kind of think that way?
I don't know. I think,
Because you'd think like a young guy, would usually want to jump into that party scene. Like, what was it that was like, no, this is a business trip?
I just think that I think some of the first bands I went out with, it was just hardcore debauchery. Where a guy like, from a tiny city somewhere, I'm like, what in the world is going on? I'm not quite sure, what's going on here. But then you see after, because I'm usually an all or nothing kind of guy, right? And I know
Hmm.
my own limits. So it's like, okay, if I start doing drugs, I'm gonna do drugs. And I'm probably gonna find whoever I can buy them from in Colombia and fucking import, 100 tons of drugs. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, I'm just like, let's go all or nothing. So I never touched anything illegal. I never went into anything crazy because I like going all in.
Yeah, and you knew that would be all in the backwards way. if you
And
did.
I saw that among some of the crew members, right? Touring with the bands that have been in this lifestyle for a long time, and they're 40 years old and they look 80, and they got aches and pains, and they always at the doctor getting shots, and I'm like, yeah, that's not the life I want to live. You
Yeah,
know, live fast, die young. No, thank you.
yeah, right.
So
27 club.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, some people like that lifestyle, and they get, kind of drawn in by the glitter, but everything that glitters isn't gold, as they say. So
And they
yeah.
always end up hitting rock bottom at some point, and
Oh, absolutely.
then you read about their story later. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
you don't have to go through that. There's an uphill climb, and you can keep going. You don't have to hit rock bottom. Uh,
exactly. And the whole thing was, but I'm really grateful for those years and for the people and for the experiences, because they really taught me a lot about just business, leading
mhm.
people, selling. That's something I've done all my life, is sales, marketing, and then later on the branding and brand strategy as you get kind of deeper into the whole process of selling something. But yeah, it taught me, like, walking door to door, knocking on businesses was nothing compared to handling messed up rock stars on the road, where all kinds of debaucheries happen. You're trying to get them to the next concert, and it's just like, oh, mayhem. The sound isn't working, or all the instruments are gone because the singer's on heroin, and like now knocking door to door and selling websites. It's like, oh,
What's like the craziest thing you saw when you were on the road? Like, what was the
oh,
most wild thing you had to deal with?
oh my God. What's the rating of this podcast?
This is raw, man. You can
Yeah.
say it.
No, but I mean, you had everything from, there were the drugs and the groupies, and people just, taking a dump out the window from the tour bus, and trashing hotel rooms, all that stupid crap that, people think are
Yeah,
cool when you're a rock star, but it's only cool when Guns N' Roses does it. It's not cool when the 900 other bands do it. And all they
right.
end up with is a bill and no headlines, right? It's
Yeah.
like, why would you do that stupid shit? Like, no, you know, uh, yeah, I mean, I could write a book on all the weird experiences, but I have to say, now it sounds like, it's like, oh my God, this guy lived like the worst rock and roll life, like crazy, crazy. A lot of these bands are also very professional guys.
Hmm.
Like I said, I mean, I went out with a couple of, like, even rock bands that were like, wow, I didn't have to drag them up. I didn't have to go look for them. I didn't have to call, the brothels in the city and see if they
Yeah.
were, they were just always on time, always straight,
Did you
never.
notice that they usually, those bands that were really put together and professional, typically did better in the long run? And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's one of those where, you know, when you're professional and consistent with what you do, and this translates to business too, right? Be professional, make an effort, those bands were always out touring, and they always asked me to come back to tour with them. I mean, even after I quit tour managing 5, 6 years later, I still got requests from them. Hey, we'd like you to, come on the road with us. And if if the pay wasn't as bad as it is, I'd be like, hell yeah, because these guys were pros and they're always booked. As opposed to, when you have those debauchery bands coming up, 999 out of those bands, you're just like, what a bunch of freaking jerks. Like,
Hmm.
who are these assholes? Who the hell do they think they are? And then you have that one band. Everybody's like, oh my God, these guys are so cool. And you can't really put your finger on, like, what is it that makes these guys cool and not the 999 others? It's just what they call it, right? You're a rock star and you're just born to do this. I think it's
Hmm.
it's charisma and it's timing. Are you doing the right stupid shit at the right stupid time? To
Right.
get some good results. But I would never endorse any kind of stupid activity when either doing music or any kind of business. I believe in effort and consistency and professionalism. You know,
Yeah. And
taking
that's what.
risks, sure, but being stupid, no.
Yeah, and that's why I think you were able to separate yourself out so much earlier. I mean, look what you were saying earlier when you were like, I was going on tour with all these different people that were getting caught up in the drugs and the partying and all this stuff. But then you were like, what
Yep.
was I doing? I was networking with the promoters. I was networking with other tour managers, and you were trying to build your business. And
Yeah.
that's such good advice. And maybe we'll talk about this later, but like when you were building a tour for a band,
Yep.
or you're trying, like for me right now, I'm going through trying to build up my speaking career, and
Hmm.
we're going all these different places. Do you see a lot of similarities between that? Maybe an entrepreneur, a professional, or a coach, or someone that does want to build up some type of, motivational speaking or seminars, workshops? what kind of like parallels do you draw between the two, and how would those strategies be the same?
Oh, I think they're absolutely the same because, again, in many cases, unless you have a big name already that just sells itself, you're Gary
Mm-hmm.
Vee. Okay, everybody wants to book Gary Vee, right? Because he's
Yep.
everywhere and omnipresent all the time, right? But if you're trying to build a career, to me, it's, hey, imagine this. You're calling up someone, hey, my name is Sosa and I speak about Sosa. Okay, well, whatever. Send me your resume or something and maybe we'll book you if we have some time, but you're paying for your own flights, as opposed to you're calling up a guy that, last time you saw him, you should, or a gal, of course. When I say guy, I mean both sexes here.
Sure. Yeah.
But you call up a guy. Last time you saw him, you shook hands. Maybe you had a drink. You were actually asking questions about them. How can I help you? That's always my motto. Is always, how can I help you? I never look for the quick fix. I never just call and pitch. Hey, give me money. Give me this. Give me this. I build relationships with people, and then after I meet them, I'm borderline stalker here, right? But I'm like, if it's somebody I think we might do something together in the future, I put a Google alert on their name. So if they do a good deal, if something cool happens, I get an alert and I send them an email. Hey man,
Who is
congratulations.
this? Who is this person? Is this an event promoter or
Yes, whoever,
okay?
or even, yeah, exactly. If it's someone who's promoting an event or even owns the event,
Okay.
organizes the event, whoever it is around, they can green light stuff, make shit happen. Uh, keep yourself in their minds.
How would you go about finding that person? And then, you know what I
So
mean?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of good strategies out there, but I always think, if you can get a warm introduction, is
Sure.
always the best. If anyone, remember the 6 degrees of separation, right? There's always someone who can introduce you to. Now, if you really
Hmm.
need to get someone like huge, big name, well, maybe you need to warm up somebody else before you get to the big name. Have some patience, right? There's a lot of people that don't have that today. Young entrepreneurs, it's one click instant gratification society, right? They've never
Yep.
had a six-figure salary, but if they're not making 10K a month the first month they start a business, it's all bullshit, right? So it's and I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I hear a lot about this, and it's like, okay, but if I want to get to Richard Branson or Bill Gates or like somebody mega or a big VC guy or whatever, maybe you have to warm up a couple of people because the 6 degrees of separation, right? Before you can make that intro down the line. I have intros I've waited a year for and finally got a very warm intro, and there, because of that, business immediately happened, as opposed to
Hmm.
me trying to get a meeting and cold pitch someone. And we talked about strategy before we went on, recording this call, and strategy is absolutely needed in combination with tactical elements, right? So
Yeah.
going back to event organizers, promoters, booking agents, whoever gets something done, find them. And if you don't have a warm introduction, if you don't have the time to wait to 6 months down the road to warm up someone else for an introduction, then hey, a simple reach out. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool, you know but don't write. I get these all the time, sure you do too. It's like
Yep.
18 paragraphs of, hey, this is what I can what I can do for you, and this is what I want, and this is what I want, and this is what I want. And I'm just like, delete, delete, delete.
Or they go the other way and they criticize everything you're doing and how they could
Oh,
help. And I'm just like,
absolutely.
now I'm
Yeah.
on the defensive here, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. No, just a quick reach out. I have a bunch of, templates that I share with my sales teams and people that I work with. It's like, hey, these are really good templates for messages to send to people on LinkedIn. It's one short paragraph. Uh, it gets me a 95% response rate from people. And it just opens a conversation without me wanting something.
Hmm.
It's more of exploring opportunities or even offering to help, you know, in a simple, don't write out like, again, a long resume, or nobody wants to read that shit, you know,
Yeah.
quick message, and then keep them in your Google alerts or keep them in your CRM, whatever it is, and reach out every now and then. Hey, by the way, I saw you were very interested in dog training, right? I saw this great article on whatever, MSNBC or whatever it is, right? And it's about new methods for dog training. I thought you might like it. Take a look. Boom. I'm not asking for something. I'm just sharing because I heard you were interested in dog training, right?
Yeah.
So I have reminders for, you know, 1 million people that kind of goes out that, okay, now I have this kind of article, and it was really good article. Who likes this? Okay, who did I mark in my CRM that likes whatever, dog training, investing, you know, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, and I send the article out to them just to always keep myself in their mind.
Yeah.
Even if we haven't done a deal in 2 years, but I think they're important to my network, this is what I do. Make an effort.
That is so good. That is so good. You know, this is what you're talking about here requires a lot of patience.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the emphasis. Like you're talking about warming up. So if someone might be 6 steps away from you, you know, let's say that the big names that you're trying to reach out to as you talk about networking, but it's like, okay, I know this person who knows this person who knows this person who knows the person I'm trying to get a hold of. Let's just warm up the network. And when warming up the network isn't about asking for things or asking for favors, instead it's about following them a little bit, creeping on them a little bit, right? And then being able to deliver some value to their life to where you're staying engaged with them. And that's, I think, what you're describing as warming up, right? You're just like
100%.
Nurture that network, and then boom, you get an introduction to the next one. This could take years maybe to get to your VIP, but the fact is when it happens, it's there and it's hot, right?
Let me tell you an example, right? Last year, I got introduced to massive VC guy, okay? Huge name, VC. He can sign $50 million checks and not even blink, right? But to get there, I had to warm up several people, and it took, because I decided, you know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I want to get into knowing a bunch of VCs and angels and all that. So I started building my network. Now, it took a couple of years, and then I finally got to intro to this big guy, right? And he has a couple of companies in a portfolio, and I say, how can I help? And he was kind of like, well, what do you want? Do you want to pitch something? And I'm like, nope. What do you need help with? Are there any of your companies that you need help with? I can get you some, I can help them put together a strategy. You want me to talk to the board? I'll put together a strategy. I'll get you guys some press, whatever it is that you want. And he's like, okay, challenge accepted, kind of. So we took a look at 2 of his portfolio companies that were in dire need of some customer acquisition and press. I helped them out. I didn't go hands-on full time, right? But I spent maybe, 5-6 hours a week for a couple of weeks to really help them out, dig into, go through paperwork, all that. And then he says, when I'm done, he's like, wow, thank you for the help, man. He's like, how much do I owe you? And I'm like, you don't owe me $1. What you owe me is next time I call and I do have a pitch, you promise me to listen to it and really vet it. And he's like, okay, I like your style. You're the big thinker. Okay, cool. So now I have a promise from one of the biggest VCs in the world. If I have something that I've pre-vetted that needs serious funding, he's going to personally take a look at it, not his 100 business analysts or assistants that go through every other deal in the deal flow, right? I have a personal promise. He'll take me to dinner. We're going to go through it just because I did that.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge, dude.
Totally worth it. But people, I feel a lot of people today don't have that kind of patience. They don't have that strategy to their network. And then they wonder, why don't I have a massive network? Because you're just asking for stuff all the time. Why would I give you stuff?
I couldn't agree more. And another thing that you noticed too is you actually delivered on your result. You know, like I know a lot of people they'll say this to me. They'll be like, "Hey, how do I work for you? How do I do this for you?" or whatever. Or they'll do it with other people. "Hey, how can I do this?" And when it's like, "Okay, here, challenge accepted," like you said, they don't rise to the challenge. They don't deliver on the result. So that's another piece of this, right?
Yeah, because I don't want to be
deliver.
Yeah, I don't want to be a client. I want to be a peer. I want to be on the same level as you. I'm not just some guy that you pay to fix shit in your company portfolio. No. I'm on your level. I want to play with your guys, with your network, with your money. Do you see what I mean? So that's how you always have to position yourself. And that's the same thing as, when I first moved to the United States, this is 15 years ago, I put, now it's a little, maybe a little saturated, but, I always put CEO as my title, right? Because people always, they're kind of like curious, like, okay, CEO of what? But instead of sitting and saying, oh, it's a small company, it's this and this and that, you just walk in, you say, well, I'm glad you asked. Here's what we do. Boom, 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 boom. I don't talk about how small my company is or how little we make or how insignificant little me, straight out of the banana boat from Sweden. And it's just, I don't talk about that. I'm glad you asked. This is what we do. Boom, 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 because it opens doors.
Yeah.
As long as you can back your claims up, so long as you can put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, you can open a lot of doors. But stop just asking for free shit from people. Nobody wants to waste their time. People send me, just because I put angel investor on LinkedIn, I get like 50 pitch decks a day, and I'm like, who the hell are you? And why are you sending me a pitch deck? Like, what? I'm not going to look at it. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's get to know me. Hey, how are you? It's a good start, right?
So this is good. I think this is a lot of really good ideas for how you can start to kind of like warm people up and at least position yourself to where you can deliver the pitch. Talk to me a little bit more about some of the strengths that you bring to the table with, you and your company, and how do you get those results? Like what separates you to get results? Like what are the exact tactics and strategies you've gone through to help win every time?
That's a good question. Depending on what you do. So what I've done throughout the years, right? So we built an agency. It was an Inc. 500 ranked agency. We worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, did big PR and activation campaigns. But consider this, ran a PR agency, Inc. 500, 6 years, never did a single press release. Why? Well, because we figured out, when was the last time you read a press release?
Yeah, never.
Exactly. Who reads that crap? Nobody. So, but what do people read? They read stories that are engaging and that they want to share with their network, right? So I guess the whole concept of find a way to engage your audience, right? Always do that. Stories, how do you approach them? Always be hungry. I'm always hungry. Always. 24/7, I'm hungry. I'm never satisfied. I could make $8 billion tomorrow. I'd be like, all right, how do I make 16? Do you see what I mean? Like, I wouldn't stop and be like, oh, vacation and Ferraris. Like,
let's pause on the subject you just mentioned, which is find something engaging for your audience. So I was reading an article yesterday, and it's pretty common knowledge probably for people like you and people that are pretty expert digital marketers. And the article, but it might, for somebody that's kind of a lay marketer, they might not understand this concept. But it was about one company and how they master marketing is, a lot of people still think of posting on social media as broadcasting information out there. And this company, what they found was this sweet spot between finding their ideal market, right? Finding their ideal clients, and then creating content that was really interesting and engaging for that market, but still somehow ties back to your company brand in a way. And I think that is a very difficult thing to find, is how do I can create interesting content, right? I can put something political out there. I could put something funny or a meme. That's engaging. But how do I create something like that comes back to my company? What would you say to that? Or how do you kind of help with that?
I have the formula for you. Let me tell you the formula I charge, my consulting clients $25,000 a month for, right now. But but there's two things to this. And one of them is something I'm always out preaching. It's the 1-9-90 formula. I don't know if you ever heard of it, the 1-9-90 model. It's called, I didn't invent it, someone much smarter than me did, but it's called how the internet buys. Now, I want to claim that it's how we've been buying stuff since we lived in caves, right? So you have the 1%, and they are the content owners, the content generators, right? The content creators, the brand, you. And then you have the 9%, which are the content aggregators. It could be an influencer / ambassador. It could be a press platform or a blog. It could be the guy yelling in the middle of the street. I don't care, right? But it's somebody who's aggregating your message. And then you have the 90, which is the consumers, the content consumers, right? So if you want to grow fast, but if you also want longevity and brand loyalty, you need to create content for the Niners. You see what I mean? Because the 9% amplifies your message, because it's the difference of if you're out walking on the street and an unknown guy walks up to you with a CD in his hand and says, please listen to my CD. 99 out of 100 people would be like, yeah, no, thank you, dude. And just keep walking. I got other stuff to do. If a good friend comes up to you and says, hey, you should listen to this CD, it's great, you'll probably listen to it. Mm-hmm. Same thing here. People, masses of people, clusters of people look up to an ambassador or a platform such as Forbes or Inc. or Vogue or Elle. Do you see what I mean? Yep. And that's how you capture the masses with an engaging piece of content. And the engaging piece of content for a company is not about your company. Nobody gives a shit about your company, okay? I'm sorry, but that's how it is. Unless you're Apple and you got stocks and all that stuff, right? But as an entrepreneur, in the beginning, nobody gives a shit about your company, but what they do give a shit about is, what's your story? What does your product actually do for me? How can I benefit from this, right? The old WIFM thing, right? What's in it for me? That's the first thing everybody asks themselves when visiting a website or an article or an e-commerce shop, whatever. What's in it for me, right? So I know I'm giving you a lot of I'm feeding you a lot of content here, but when you combine all that stuff, you give, again, the Niners an engaging story that activates the clusters below them. Sure. You have a winning formula. And this works in both micro and macro scenarios. Macro scenario being you have Coca-Cola, a big, commercial campaign or a big article or whatever, or Apple, right? And a big press release. The new iPhone 55 is coming out. Whoa, everybody goes crazy. But it also works on a micro scale, right? You can have, we did this, I was pitching a project in front of a whole bunch of very rich people in a room put together by, let's call him Peter, right? And I told this formula for them, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Our companies and the products and all that. Yep. And then I'm like, let's look at the micro scale. I'm like, who's the 1 in here? And they're like, well, that's you, Sam. And I'm like, sure, who's the 9? And they're looking around, well, that must be Peter. And then I look at that, and I'm kind of smirking at them. I said, who's the 90? And they're all like, what the hell, we're the 90? We're the 90? We don't want to be the 90. We want to be the 1. And I'm like, yeah, but this is how it works on a micro scale, right? So you can apply this model on different scales, but that's really how you grow, how you tell engaging stories, how you talk about what your company actually does for the consumers. It's the most efficient way of reaching the clusters you need to reach. That was a long answer, but I hope it kind of
that's a great answer.
Clarity.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you're looking at being the content creator, the strategy is to find the influencers, for lack of a better word, that want to disseminate their content. And it's almost like the inverse of your warming up model, right? It's kind of like coming back down the other way. Yep. Is there a trick to getting, I mean, I shouldn't say a trick, but is there a thought process or something for engaging the 9%? Without giving too many of your secret formulas away.
Right. Oh, I don't mind because I've learned that, you can tell your secrets to the whole world, but most people are not going to implement. It's like, who said?
I couldn't agree more.
Recipe doesn't make the chef, right? So
yep.
But, again, depending on your target demographic, right? It might be an article in Forbes. That'll be fantastic for you. It might be that some influencer on Instagram or TikTok posts something about you and stuff goes crazy, right? Look at a company, look at several, I'm not going to name them now, but we've had several of them as clients, but look at some of these fast apparel companies, right? Mm-hmm. They have, all they do is Instagram marketing, mm-hmm. right? Some of these sports nutrition companies, all they do is Instagram marketing. They have influencers that look really good and everybody wants to look like them, They have professional photographers that take a bunch of nice pictures and people think, well, I want to look like that too. I'm going to buy that dress too. Or I'm going to buy that protein supplement too. Right.
Right.
So
it's
you got
an endorsement would be a form of it. Right.
Exactly.
Like an athlete or whatever. You could maybe from a traditional school book model. Right.
Yeah, exactly. but how do you engage the 9% is of course a good question, and that's where it is. You got to respect the 9% too. So how did we place our clients in the biggest publications in the world consistently? Well, for every single publication, we did a story about a client. We researched the publication, who's their target demographic, the writer that we're pitching, how many articles have they written before, and what's the language, and what's the kind of like voice of the articles, who's reading it, who's liking it, who's sharing it. All right, cool. Now we know it's exactly this format they want. These are the things they want to talk about because we analyzed whoever shared their posts in the past. These are the keywords they like, and these are the things this audience likes. And then we pitch it to the writer. And most of the times they're like, holy shit, this is perfect. I don't even have to work for it, and I can put my name on it.
This is done. You're right.
This is done. I'll publish it today. Like, I just saved myself 4 hours of work. Heck yeah. So we did that for every single publication that we wanted to go to. Again, make an effort, go the extra mile that other people are not willing to go. And that's where you get the magic results, right? Oh, it's all overnight success. Right. Sure, we worked 10 years to get there, but
what you're doing is you're really getting the other person to their destination as fast as possible while you're riding along for the ride. I called that in one of my speeches, I called it jujitsu, where you're using the momentum of your opponent to your advantage. And you're kind of doing that too. It's like, I'll write you the article. I'll even put it to your target demographic. I'll get you published. It'll be a great article. It's like, yeah, well, it's a no-brainer for them. And boom, I feature my client, or I feature myself, or whatever.
Exactly.
Because you care. You actually care what they want. Like, this is like, I want to serve you. This is symbiotic, I'm trying to give you the result.
Exactly. I don't really want anything from you. Of course, it's great if you publish an article, but here, let me help you.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I keep coming back to the same keyword, but effort, man, effort and patience. Magic happens.
Yeah, and I think what we're really implying here is this is what people mean when they say, to serve other people. It's not just like, oh, hey, how can I help you? How can I be a people pleaser or whatever? It's like, no, research their problem, and don't ask them how I can necessarily help them, but give them the result they want for no reciprocation, right?
Exactly.
And it's I see that keep coming up in what you're talking about. I think that's what separates you from an average, PR agent or an average marketer in this space. There's so much noise, and it's like, here, I'll get through the noise. I'll get you a result without any questions.
Absolutely. Look at the big picture. Again, I didn't take the big, the paycheck from the VC, which was kind of generous. I was like, no, man, I need to be on your level, right? I have a same story about I was tour managing a band. It was a German band. And, long story short, we toured all over the place, and it was slightly a disaster, but it wasn't the band's fault. It was the promoter's fault. And the band had like $200 left after everything was paid, and they still had to get back home, right? And they owed me like $500. And I'm like, you guys keep that money, forget about it. I don't want your $200. Take that $200, get on a bus and go home, and never mind. We'll fix it another time. 2 days later, I get a call from the head of their label, and he's like, dude, I've never heard anything like it. Like, everybody always wants their money and get paid. Some people wouldn't even have let the band go until they've coughed up some money or given them given you their watches or something like that. And he's like, this is cool. You now have exclusivity for my whole roster.
Boom.
And that's because, again, I'm not looking for the quick paycheck, but you said a very important thing there. Again, of course, certain people you work with are clients, and you need to pay your bills. I'm not saying just work for free all the time or just look at the bigger picture, right? But people pleasing, yes, there's a fine line to walk there. You do not want to be a people pleaser. You do not want to be a doormat. You need to set very professional, both standards and professional kind of like lines of, hey, we don't cross this. Now, in the case of a reporter, right, a writer or an editor, we all know the editor is super happy, the writer is super happy. Wow, Sam sent me an article and did all this stuff for me. That's great. But this person also knows, and I know, the next article I send, well, they're going to definitely open my email because Sam is sending me some good stuff.
Right.
unspoken kind of business agreement that happens there, right? That
It's like a favor, really. It's
yes,
like, it's not just like I'm doing this for you just because I'm doing it for you. It's like, look,
exactly.
I'm gonna hook you up, but just someday return the favor, right? And I think
Yeah,
most people are like, yeah, that's a cool deal.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And for that favor, I keep feeding them articles that I am charging my clients, 5 figures a month, to get published somewhere, but never pay to play thing when I go out and get all these articles published. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we built that relationship, that professional relationship. And I know it's the same thing. Like, when I worked a lot with artists, people are always like, oh my God, how did you get so many songs featured on the big TV shows? Well, because I didn't send the music supervisors any crap, and I labeled every single, at that time we sent CDs, right? Or even when I sent MP3s, keywords, suspense scene, or great for a car chase, upbeat, electronic, blah, 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 blah. So that way they could see if they were looking for something immediately, like, oh, this is great. I don't even have to listen to the songs because I have 8,000 CDs coming in that are unlabeled, and I have to sit and listen through every single song. But Sam's stuff is always, first of all, top-notch pro recordings, never anything crap. 2, it's all labeled. I know if I'm looking for a car chase and Sam has that on his label, I'm going to fucking choose that CD. I'm not going to look through the other 8,000 unmarked CDs. You see what I mean? Make an effort.
Just going the extra mile to just,
Yes.
what I'm really recognizing with you, and I've talked about this on a couple other shows as I'm starting to really see these people are crushing it in life, what they're doing. And what they do is they're just always putting themselves in the shoes of other people to figure out, what do they really need? How do I make this easier for them? How do I deliver on my promise? How do I get them to their result? Just little stuff like you're thinking, because you're always thinking, what's in it for the journalist? They want an article that's done. They don't want to do any work. Let's help them with that. What's in it for the CD label? They don't want to sit there and pile through CDs. You're like constantly looking at the pain points of your audience or of the person you're interacting with.
Exactly.
That's a key takeaway from what I'm getting out of this conversation. It's like, really,
you nailed it.
What's this guy struggling with? And that's how I can help them.
Yep. Because if somebody's making life easier for you, when, in your daily routines or job, whatever you're doing, of course you're going to listen to them again. Of course you're going to answer their phone calls. Of course you're going to read their emails.
Yeah.
There's an efficiency here. The favor is saving time, being efficient.
Right.
And you don't have to care how much they charge their clients, because you're doing your thing, and then maybe there's a reciprocation there, maybe there's not, but as long as everybody wins, it's all good. It's not always money. It's time, it's effort, it's network building, it's whatever it is.
I think that's cool too. That's just the patience.
Dollar. Yeah.
The patience you have, the amount of service you're willing to give, but with a shared understanding. I think that's a key distinction. It's like, look, I'm hooking you up. Just someday, I just need a favor, right? It's just kind of like just an informal thing. I think that's a very natural, non-defensive human conversation. Like, sometimes you're afraid to take the free sample at Costco because you think that the lady with the old hair is going to sell you something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's an aggressive communication there on set. It's like, look, hey, it's just a favor. Just hit me up someday, right? It's just more, it's softer communication. I think it's much stronger too.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great strategy that you were able to kind of give us and today's lesson, I think, for a lot of this PR and strategy and getting to the top and networking your way to the next level.
Yep.
So my last question for you as we kind of wrap things up is kind of a little shifting gears a little bit, but just, what kind of just general advice would you give some early stage entrepreneurs or maybe entrepreneurs? They maybe want to start a business or want to get into it. What advice would you give them early on?
Oh, that's a very good question, and I think it's a very broad question, right? Depending on kind of where you are and what you're doing and all that. But in some general advice would be, don't cut off your bloodstream first thing you do. Meaning, save up some money or keep your day job or whatever it is while you're starting your side business. Work 40 hours to make a living and 40 hours to make a fortune. That's what I was taught, right? Jumping with both feet in can be dangerous at times, so to speak. And then also something, here's a couple of things. Number two, always get a lawyer and an accountant.
Yeah.
Never start anything, because a vast majority, like 80% of all startups that fail, which are 9 out of 10, fail because of bad money management, right?
Mm-hmm.
So get an accountant, get a lawyer, make sure it's worth investing those extra dollars in having just airtight contracts with whatever you do, right? It's absolutely worth it, because it can come back and bite your ass later for a lot of money. Let's say you make it big and there's some little gap in a contract somewhere, somebody's going to find it, because once they start smelling money, they're going to come chasing you.
Yep.
They're like sharks. There's blood in here. Woohoo! Let's come get it. So, and also 3 is, find your target demographic, and activate only them. Offer them something that really alleviates a pain that they're feeling. Don't try to please everyone. You're not chocolate, right?
Or ketchup. No.
Or ketchup, right? I see a lot of people like, oh, everybody's going to like my stuff. Everybody needs my services. No, they don't.
Right.
I'd rather have 1,000 people that are potential buyers and that I know I can go after and close, 1 out of 10. So it means I'm closing 100 out of 1,000 versus approaching 80 million people and trying to close 1 out of 75 million, right? It's just.
Well, that's a great point that you're bringing up. And we've talked about this before on the show a little bit, but you're very good at understanding pain points, clearly, from the way that you run your business, the way you've discussed today. What is the best way to get that target market when you got the product, you got the service or whatever? How do you find the pain point? What are you doing to help identify that ideal market that you're looking at?
Completely immerse yourself in your target demographic. Where do they hang out? What forums are they on? What subreddits are they on? What magazines do they read? You'd be surprised, man. If you're looking at like getting into health and fitness, like there's a reason, Men's Health and all these magazines, the female health or women's health or whatever they're called, there's a reason their headlines haven't really changed in the last 20 years. Because these are constant pain points that people are feeling. You're not fit enough, you're overweight, etc. You want to look good, you're not toned enough, you want bigger biceps, whatever it is. And this goes for all industries. So take a look at the trade magazines. Take a look at, what people are writing online. Very, very important. And then, of course, take a look at your competitors. What are they doing? What are people complaining about? What are the bad reviews they're getting, right? What are they bad at? And what can you do better? Again, make an effort to really understand your audience and their pain points. Because when you're selling, and we could do a whole show on just the process of selling, right? But you got to go in and you got to really make them feel that pain. And you got to kind of twist the knife in a metaphorical sense, right? And then you got to offer the solution, right?
Yeah.
But you gotta really learn how to sell. And, one of the tricks I used to teach, like when I do sales coaching and sales training and all that stuff, is always like, make people understand the bigger picture. Oh, is this a pain for you today? Okay. Tell me, how would that look if this continues for the rest of the year? Oh, shit, that sounds bad. What about 5 years down the road if you don't do anything about this? Oh my God, that's horrible. How would that make you feel? Oh, what would that do for your business? Oh my God, pain, pain, pain. Well, let me tell you what, I can help you with that. Here's what we're going to do. Boom, 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 boom. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? Do you see what I mean?
You're touching their pain point and you're dumping gasoline on it, making it worse. And then you're like, here's solution.
Exactly. And to be able to do that, you need to understand their pain points. Right? Now, in a general sense, one cluster has, a pain point or two that they're looking to solve, right? But then you can go in and kind of, segment that whole cluster or demographic into really niches of pain, right? And you can sell the same product with very different language, but to different demographics. And that's the whole magic about being good with selling, is you got to know your audience, right? So if your product is, well, it's for women between 18 and 65, Okay, but would you speak to an 18-year-old woman the same way you would speak to a 65-year-old woman? I don't think so.
Right.
So learn how to talk to them. And also, I'll give you a last one. It's kind of like always have a couple of elevator pitches ready to go, because you never know. Dude, I've signed up 5-6 figure clients in the local Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Just from the produce island. Because, I crack a joke and they're like, oh, that's funny. Who are you? What do you do? Well, let me tell you. Boo, 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 boo. And then they're like, because my goal for an elevator pitch is not for people to be like, oh, I want to buy your stuff. No, it's not going to happen. Like, you're going to close 1 in 1,000. The only goal you should have with an elevator pitch is to have people ask or say, wow, that's interesting. Tell me more. I'd be happy to. When is a good time?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Just leaving them a little taste, right?
Absolutely. Now you want more. Good. Let's set a time so I can really thoroughly show you how you can benefit from this. I don't think we'll do it very well here in the produce island at Whole Foods, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, we're just opening the fire hose and dumping it down their throat.
But also you seem desperate, right? So, never try to sell people on the first reach out you do. Like, warm them up.
Yeah.
See if they're interested. And also, I'll give you another. This is a bonus one, but this is very, 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 very important. Okay, disqualify fast.
Ooh.
Fast.
Who's this not for? Right.
Exactly. Get rid of them immediately. Don't let them lead you on. Don't have long talks and follow-ups with people that are never going to buy. Disqualify fast. Boom. Out onto the next, because they just block you from signing up the next one. So those are some key points.
Yeah, and I've been burned with that one before, so I learned that one very quickly. Because you'll just get led on and
forever.
Flake,
Maybe you'll do a demo and then forever. I need to talk. I don't know. Blah 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 blah. It's not worth it. There are what are we, like 6 billion people on this planet now? There's somebody else who's going to buy your product, right?
Right.
Don't sweat it.
Yeah. I think that's good. I mean, that's really good stuff. I took a ton of value from this conversation. I took a ton of value from everything. And what I really appreciated what you did is you gave us tactics. You gave us very specific things. People, if you're taking notes today, you can take these notes and you can apply them in your own business and you're going to see success. Yes. And like you said, you got to execute it, right?
Yes.
You got to do it. And so many people just absorb information, listen to podcasts, no action.
Yes.
I'll just have all this information, all this data, no action. It's like, take the action, execute what we're talking about. You'll see results. Like
100%.
What was this? What's an hour worth with your clients? What do they normally pay you for this?
Oh, it completely depends on the client. It ranges from a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand. I mean, it's
so look at that though. Like right there in this podcast, that's a couple $1,000s worth of value people are getting. And some people are going to listen to this on the car on their ride. They're not going to do anything about it. And it's just like, what are you doing? Like, this is $1,000 or more worth of value, worth of content you could be applying in your business or your life.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is the sad truth. And my hope and dream is really that, people go out and execute and do what they love to do. I agree. But
that's why we're doing this, right?
Yeah, but you can only lead the horse to the water. It's got to drink it itself, right? So
that's right.
Force it down its throat. So, but I'm super, super honored to be on here. I'm super glad to hear that was some good takeaways, and that's always my goal, is to kind of give some advice that can be implemented as well, because I think there's sometimes there's a lot of fluff out there on big concepts, but there's never like, well, what the hell do I do with this?
Right.
So I always try to give some actionable items that everybody can do. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, well, where can our guests, our listeners, where can they find you? How do they get a hold of you? How do they follow along on your journey? And anything else that you might have going on in your business that you'd like to talk about? I want to just give you a couple minutes to kind of lay it all out there.
Not really. I don't have anything to pitch your audience. I don't have anything to sell, really. I'm just doing my thing. But if you want to follow along on my little journey here, it's Twitter at Sam Rusani, so SAMRUSANI. You can also go to samrusani.com. I'm there. It has links to all my my Instagram is Sam number 6 and FT number 9, so it's Sam 6'9", because that's how tall I am. It's become a little bit of a cliche, but you know, it's the first thing that people always ask. It's not like what's your name or what do you do. It's always, how tall are you? So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, well,
Post some crazy stuff there from time to time. I'm not the most active poster. I'm not gonna bombard you 5 times a day, but yeah.
Yeah, well, this was very valuable. I really appreciate you taking the time to share this with our listeners. You know, I'm always going to stay in contact with you. I love it. I always like to stay in contact with my guests and see if there's anything I can do for you down the road, vice versa, and just stay connected so we can hook each other up on our different journeys. You know.
Yes.
So
please, let's do it.
I love it, man. I love it. So with that said, thank you so much, everybody, for listening today. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming on the show. Kristen will put all of his contact info in the show notes, so you can get a hold of Sam if you're ever interested in partnering with him for anything you might want to look for, strategy or marketing or PR, or, you know, you're just, you know, so many different expertises that I think people can touch on, especially as early stage entrepreneurs that are starting to make money. They want to figure out, how do I take this money and magnify it and magnify it and magnify it. That's what you do, you know.
Yep.
You dump gasoline on the fire, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you so much, brother, for coming on the show.
Once
again, folks, this is Winners, Wallets, and Worldviews. You can find this podcast, other podcasts at AaronJArmstrong.com. Hey folks, thanks so much for listening through to the end. Once again, if you found value in this episode today, please go on iTunes and give it a 5-star rating and leave a review that you thought was helpful and valuable in this podcast. What that does is that really helps us get more reach and get out there. But what's in it for you guys is we are actually approaching our 100 episode mark very shortly. And what we're going to do is, after the 100th episode, we are going to be offering a $200 Amazon gift card to any listener that leaves a 5-star review, writes a nice review, and screenshots it, sends us the email so that we can enter you into a raffle and raffle that off. If you think that that's a lot of work and that's a little bit too much energy, I think there's only been a couple people, like 2 or 3, that have left reviews since I've started talking about this. So if you want $200 Amazon gift card, there's a very good chance if you just screenshot it, send it to info@AaronJArmstrong.com. There's a very good chance you will be the lucky winner of a $200 Amazon gift card. Once again, here's what you do. All you got to do is you go on iTunes, you leave a 5-star review, write a quick note about what you liked about the podcast, screenshot that, email it to info@AaronJArmstrong.com. I won't spam you. I won't even put you in my CRM. All I'm going to do is respond to you with the Amazon gift card if you win it. So thank you so much for being a listener all the way to the end. We really appreciate everything you guys do and the support that I've been getting throughout this journey. So thanks so much, everybody. Hopefully you can be the lucky winner of $200 towards Amazon. Be somebody.